A very warm welcome to the Spirit Made Visible. A very warm welcome, everyone out there, to the Spirit Made Visible. This is an occasion where we are with like minded people and those who have admired the Songlines Exhibition to further explore what is behind the songlines with the experts we have today. Here, I will introduce you shortly. I'm Zanita, the curator at the National Art Gallery, Balai Seni Negara. We are very proud to host the Songlines, a hybrid of that songline actually. The introduction, as Professor Margo Neale has told me, what we are presenting in Malaysia is a smaller version of the songlines tracking the Seven Sisters. Today, I will be moderating this unique sharing by two Indigenous people's experts, Professor Margo Neale, the curator of Songlines, the seven tracking the Seven Sisters, and also we have uh, we have Shaq Koyok, our contemporary artist, who's of course the Indigenous Temuan tribe of Malaysia. I mentioned that they are two Indigenous peoples experts, and I must say also that they are also themselves the rightful ones to be speaking for. I forgot to mention that Professor Margo Neale is of Aboriginal and Irish descent from the Kulin nation with Gumwangir clan connections. I hope I mentioned that properly, the Gumwangir clan connections. While Shak Koyok is from the Temuan tribe of Malaysia. This sharing is a public appreciation program to complement the Walking Through Songlines exhibition. Over here, we have this exhibition exhibited on the third floor of the National Art Gallery, and this will be showing all throughout June to September. Now, we know that Walking Through the Songline was created by Mosster Studio in Melbourne with the complete support of the traditional Aboriginal custodians of this story. One of the Australian designers, Daniel Calvo of Mosster Studio, was able to travel all the way to Kuala Lumpur. I must say, we met him, and he helped to install this particular exhibition at the gallery in Malaysia. We will see that this exhibition travels to another place in Bangkok in the future. We thank you, the filament and the gallery staff who installed this exhibition, and we plan for this exhibition to lead us to understanding songlines all throughout September of this year. We know that there's been so much hard work in putting this exhibition together, knowing how we all survived, or we are still trying to survive COVID, where we were really delayed in presenting and communicating much of what we were supposed to start since 2019. We thought that this exhibition may not happen at all. But thank you, everyone. With resilience, we pushed on, and the hard work and adaptability of both the Balai Seni, the National Art Gallery, and the Australian High Commission's team. Thank you, Jason. We have continued and presented this exhibition despite the challenges of a global pandemic. Walking through a songline is derived from the internationally acclaimed songlines tracking the Seven Sisters, as I mentioned just now. And the songlines tracking the Seven Sisters is an exhibition by the National Museum of Australia, which now has just opened in Berlin, I'm informed. So, should any of you out there be traveling to the Europe, please do go and catch this exhibition in Berlin. And can I say a bit more about our little exhibition over here at the National Art Gallery? If we can see through the slide, the National Gallery of Malaysia is the first venue to host this particular version of Songlines tracking through the Seven Sisters. Now, National Gallery is the first venue outside Australia to host this mobile marquee exhibition. This mobile marquee exhibition is a design that's been especially made, yeah, for us to show in our third floor gallery. Please note that this pop-up marquee digital experience exhibition is specially designed by Mosster and the National Museum of Australia curators. Thank you. And this exhibition uses innovative digital art to tell an ancient Australian story. It is a great example of the creativity and culture of the first Australians. Walking through a songline imagines the experience of being immersed in an Indigenous Australian songline on dreaming tracks. Uh, Actually, audience get to stand into that marquee tent. If we can show the next slide, please. And the audience will be immersed in the wonders of trekking through this dream. It visualizes the Seven Sisters songline. And you may ask now, what is the songline? And you may be wondering, how could this songline be understood in Malaysia? Well, as much as we can only enjoy a glimpse of it, as we are not able to really get to be looking at and experiencing the walking, we hope that Professor Margo Neale will share and bring us to that wonderful, wonderful exhibition she has curated and actually co-curated with the elders. Yeah, allow me to share a brief bio of the good Professor Margo Neale before we listen to her presentation. If you can allow me, Professor. Our adjunct Professor Margo Neale is the head of the new Centre for Indigenous Knowledge, Senior Indigenous Curator and Principal Advisor for the Director at the National Museum of Australia. She was inaugural director of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander program and the Gallery of First Australians at the museum, after previously working at the National Gallery of Australia, the Art Gallery of New South Wales, where she co-established and curated the first Indigenous gallery, the Yiribana. At the Queensland Art Gallery, she was the inaugural curator and established the first Indigenous art department and was instrumental in guiding the Australian and Pacific components of the Asia Pacific Triennale in the 1990s. Oh, this is so close to Malaysia because many of our artists had entered this Asia Pacific Triennale, Prof. Margo is a co-recipient of 7 Australian Research Council grants in collaboration with ANU, Australian National University, Monash, Yale, and the University of Victoria. She has published widely across disciplines including social history, art, and culture in the Asia Pacific region and Aboriginal Australia at large. She is the author, co-author, or editor of 12 books, including the Oxford Companion to Aboriginal Art and Culture and the recent Thames and Hudson book on songlines. We must look out for that. Through Songlines, I'm sure we can get that online. She curated major pioneer exhibitions such as Australia's largest international solo exhibition for an Australian artist, Emile Kamekwiwere, and this was in 2008, which was also the first national touring exhibition for an Aboriginal artist. Started actually in 1998, did research for that, I believe. The first major national touring exhibition for urban artist Lynn Onus and the Vatican's collection of Aboriginal art and artifacts for the canonization of Saint Mary Immaculate in 2010. Her award-winning Songlines exhibition is going international to major events in Europe, UK, USA, and Asia. Successive governments have appointed her to advisory roles And Malaysia is blessed to have her show one of her creations with us. Without further ado, allow me to introduce, I have done that, and to welcome our first speaker, Professor Margo Neale, to share with us this beautiful songlines. Please, Professor.
Well, thank you so much for that introduction, Zanita, and for the great summary of the Songlines exhibition and its meaning in small part. So I guess all I'd like to say is acknowledge the Indigenous peoples of your country and all other peoples in your country, particularly the elders and those who hold the stories, which I imagine similar than here, and of course all those artists, curators and writers who help to make those stories accessible to the rest of the world. So I thank you very much for allowing me this opportunity. I've been introduced, so I'll just get into it. I think the important thing to say first is just to repeat the fact that what you are seeing today in that fabulous description of pop-up mobile marquee experience. So it's not the exhibition. For those, the exhibition is like 1 to 2,000 square meters. But this wonderful little pop-up that you've got actually has the essential elements of everything that's in the big exhibition. It is the first part you enter into. It's the first experience you have of the big show, because it will immerse you instantly in a songline. It will tell you that the songlines are an embodied experience. You must use your body to learn this story, and it'll be sensual and immersive, and even though you won't know exactly what you're getting necessarily, you will get that that sort of infusion of culture, including the humor as well as everything else. So it has all the elements. It has the running feet of the sisters who are wrongfully pursued by a male who's breaking the law. It will also show you the animal footprints that the knowledge system tells them how to find. It'll give you all the critical elements that are necessary for survival in the desert. And as you can see in my first slide, now watch your time here. As you can see in the first slide, if we can go back, I called it sizzling in the intersections, digitizing the dreaming, because it is the way we preserve our culture is to join our young people in the digital realm. This is what the elders wanted, and that's why there's a lot of that in here. And so you've got to digitize the dreaming. Next slide. So I'll just say next and then, yeah. Oh, it's taking a while. Anyway, I'm from the National Museum, and what you're seeing in the next slide is the museum. And next, we won't waste time on that. Let's move to now. If you play this, you'll see something like your tent with an elder in the background. Can you play the video? It's a short video. Can they play it?
You must have been very nervous when the elders finally managed to come in and actually see how you had visualized the spirit.
Yeah, no, we had a
Making
lot
the
of
spirit
interaction.
visible.
No, we had interaction all the way. We were in. This took 5 to 7 years. No, the previous slide needs to be activated. It's a video. Is it possible? Can they hear me?
Yes, I think they're working on that.
Okay. Well, I'll keep talking while that's happening. What this will show you, this is a transition zone into the major exhibition to unsettle people, to take them out of the Western world into the desert and be introduced the same as your pop-up tent. And then the lady who's sitting in the wheelchair in the end, she screams with delight fear when the snake travels towards her. So it's a really nice sort of, because you can get a bit too serious about all this. So it's a humor. And then the slide you'll see after that is the full Mosster, the full show, which is close to what you've got. And then what was very important in this exhibition, and again we'll see it shortly, is
We have some problems playing the
okay,
video, so if
all
we
right,
can
okay,
continue with the slides, we
yes.
can
So this
look at
slide
that.
here, you can see I figured that if the country and the stories are owned by these custodians and many more, then they are curators also.
Mhm.
I'm a co-curator. I know how to choreograph their story, but it is their story, they own it, and so on. So at the front of the exhibition, we had a very big blade. Well, you'll see in your tent, there's 2 virtual elders out the front, custodians, and here we have all of them who just turn around on the screens, and therefore I called it a curatorium. So they're not a reference group, they're not an advisory group, they are a curatorium. Together we are that, and that's vital, because when audience come to this exhibition, it's in a museum. It doesn't matter how many signs you put up. If you see it in the museum, you think it's the museum owns it and they've just got stories from the people. But when you see these people at the front saying, this is ours, come on in, you're invited, it changes everything. It makes everyone feels included. They don't feel like they're voyeurs in someone else's lounge room. They become part of it. And these people are then seen as the owners, the hosts, the hostesses. Next, please.
So this is a co-curation that you have actually started
Yeah,
here, and I'm sure
yeah.
this will be exemplified in others
Yes,
in
I'm sure.
future. Otherwise, it's just very museum
Yeah,
authored.
yeah. It's
Yes,
called like co-design or co-authored,
that's
whatever
right.
word. I came up with curatorium. So
Curatorium.
next one, because this is supposed to be active now. Unfortunately, this is also a number of people talking about what a songline is. Right? There's all sorts of Aboriginal sectors. That's not going to show, so I'll have to tell you. They're basically saying a songline is an epic saga that tells the foundational story of our country by our foundational cultural group. And I'll explain. Songlines are like pathways or corridors that crisscross the continent, and people, they're laid down by the ancestors in the creation of the continent, and they left stories of all of these natural features along the land, and because it's an oral culture, therefore, you walk the song lines, sort of like you go grading through university. You walk the song lines to learn the knowledge at each of the special sites or natural features along the country that are all linked by the song line. So that gives you a general sense of what the song lines are. They're a knowledge system, a way of organising knowledge on country. Next. So this is a moving one too, but this is the man who came to us. This is one of many people who came to us in 2010 to the National Museum and the University and said, his name is David Miller, he's an Uncle Elder, and he said, our songlines are all broken up and we need you to help us put them back together again. So it started out as a preservation, almost a heritage preservation project, and and it's very ironic. They're coming to a museum. Now, as you all may know, museums in the past have been considered the Western institutions that stole ancestral remains and, desecrated sites, and, were seen as just hoarders and collectors of someone else's culture, very colonizing. But fortunately, our museum is a very new museum. We have a lot of Indigenous staff, and I'm the senior Indigenous person, and their need was so great that they came to us because it's a huge project, millions of dollars, years to do. Organisationally, we've got to travel the song lines to do it. So that's what you see in the actual exhibition, and which you've got a microcosm of, is in fact the public face, if you like, of this preservation project. So this map shows you, one of the elders did this, the lady who was in that wheelchair who you didn't see, shows that Aboriginal Australia is Aboriginal, was Aboriginal, always will be, and
This
you'll
is by
see the song.
Josephine.
Hey,
Josephine.
Josephine Mick, yes,
Josephine. Yeah.
yes, and she was the one in the wheelchair that we couldn't animate. That one, you'll see her again.
Yes.
She
Yes.
has drawn the songlines that we propose to travel from the west of Australia right across to the east. But over 5 to 7 years, we only got as far as the west to the centre and back again.
7 years.
Yeah, well, 7 all up, but 5 years traveling. And all what she's done is she's done dots around all the other cities to show you that the songlines, in fact, are all over Australia, but a lot of it's under concrete now. And of course, it's being, this has inspired a lot of interest. It's in the archives in many places, but the songlines are across the whole world, actually.
This.
Anywhere you can see the Orion and Pleiades, the ancient peoples will have had a seven sisters story, because the Pleiades are the seven sisters cluster and Orion is the lustful pursuer. Again, we'll move on. Now, these three spots show that the exhibition went from the Maru land to the left, to the west, down to the centre, where you may know Uluru, which we call for short APY lands, because Anangul Pitnjara Tajara might be a bit hard to take that in. And then we move back into what was called the NPY lands. Therefore, the exhibition, I just exactly mapped our journey, because it's a journey exhibition. Next. Now, land stories. So this shows you the visualization of Australia as a continent. Aboriginal people see it. This David Moranjali has visualized it as a personage, a living being. And if you look closely, you can see there's a navel in the middle, and the top
Yes.
there's the lungs, and the bottom's a pubic area, and it's got shoulders, ribs, blah, blah. And all of the lines equate with different parts of the body. So the country is, our concept of country is as a living being. It's not a cartographic concept at all.
Yes.
And it's alive with the songlines. It vibrates with the stories that the ancestors laid down. Next, please. Next again. In this case, this is the opening of the exhibition at the National Museum in 27. That's a full exhibition. And this man is Wadinyuru, or is the pursuer. And he was very scary. And he wasn't just, it didn't feel like he was acting. He was the pursuer. And next, please. And he is replicated down there as a young man chasing all the seven sisters, which was a huge projection. It was done outside the museum. So just showing you in relation to the sisters who are forever, ever peering for him. So it's really the real story. This is a story, but we all know stories are ways of carrying critical information about creation and about how to behave properly, and where critical resources for survival are. So in all of these stories, this is obviously not only gender relations, but kinship and so on. Next, please. And there he is, in the land. We say our story is written in the land. We have no writing. Our history is written in the land. And you can see, and this is a natural occurring site, and you can see the face of that pursuer.
Oh, that is frightening.
Yes, and that's 30 or 40 meters. And a lot of the work some of the work we did was at the base of this, in his presence. And today, we all camped there, and all the women would speak in very hushed tones, so as not to rouse him. Next.
Yes, and you must be careful of what they talk, what words are
Yes.
being spoken. Yeah, I read about that too.
Yeah, he's still there, of course. And then, of course, I'm just showing a contrast that in the Western system, this Indigenous system is an embodied, integrated knowledge system written in the land. The Western system here is showing you the National Library of Australia. the knowledges are kept in a box sitting atop a piece of land that has absolutely nothing to do with what's inside it. So next, and you can see in the next slide all the books that live in there that hold all the knowledge, but the knowledge there's no knowledge in Aboriginal Australia that doesn't exist because of the place where it is, right? So this is a good contrast. An old Inuit elder said to me once, trouble with white fellas, they keep all their brains in books.
Sorry.
I thought that was so funny. And it's a
That's
Western
a
knowledge.
challenge of the repository, yeah?
Yeah,
The
we all,
knowledge
well,
in the book repository.
yeah, I write books too. I mean, we all do books now. I just, it was a lovely kind of humorous contrast to the ancient ways of keeping knowledge. Yeah. Of course, us Aboriginal people, we keep knowledge always, from the Western way, the Indigenous way, many ways. Next. And when you go into this exhibition and you see this stunning, huge paintings, they are no longer acrylic paint on canvas. When the women who are connected to that, the people who painted the painting, the country where it comes from, they have to touch it to connect it. So this painting isn't about their country. This painting is their country. Next. So that painting that they were touching, see on the top left corner, was painted, 30 years or so earlier, and you can see the country and the old people, and the bottom right corner where they're dancing to the story. They paint the story, they sing the story, they perform the story on the country where the incidents of the encounters between the pursuer and the Seven Sisters occurred, which explains why the place looks like it looks, explains what animals are there, how to get them. Everything is in these paintings. So when the women were touching that painting, they were reconnecting with this sort of stuff that you see now. Next. Now, because because this is a different slant, and we have co-curators who are the custodians, then we had to have a different governance structure. You can't have the council, the board council of the museum in the centre. So we have to have a governance structure that has in the centre what we call jukupa. Now, jukupa is law. It means the law. It says who can know what, when they can know it, who can go where. All of the law is there. So that is the central hub of this model. And then we are exploring or retrieving or preserving all the culture and history across all those countries, all those deserts, visually, performatively, archaeologically, and ecologically, to show you that it's integrated. So while you're doing one, you're also doing all the other. They are not compartmentalized like Western knowledge is into medicine, ecology, geology. It's not. It's the integrated. Next. And this is a curatorium, some of them. Again, there's Josephine Mick on the right-hand side in the wheelchair. Next, and again, next, because we can't play these. So now, of course, after they wanted this to asked us to assist, we then started the big journeys. Now, I call these big journeys like ground proofing for future proofing. So to preserve this culture and these stories for after we have to do it from the ground. You can't just go collecting.
Ground proofing for future proofing. That's very good.
Yeah. And so off we go on these huge journeys. That's why it's called a journey exhibition, because the Seven Sisters were on a journey, and then we're on a journey to track the Seven Sisters, and then the visitors who come to the exhibition are on a journey that we were on, and so on. So it's a journey exhibition. And here just a quick story. Look at, when we run out of time, we stop. We don't, because it's much slower this way than the other way. So there's something like we'd go on one of these journeys across all these deserts. So this one, there was like 10 cars, 30 people of fairly advanced years. We traveled 600 kilometers on no roads. Then we'd get to, they'd say this way, go this way, and then we'd get somewhere, and then we'd say, okay, so what do you want to preserve here? And then they'd all look around and say, oh, no, can't talk about this one. Daisy got off the trip, 3 stops back, so she can only speak for this country. No one else can. Sorry, pack up the Toyotas and off we go another 100 kilometres without roads, and then you get somewhere else and say, oh, no, we can't do this because this man isn't. And then it went on. I was just, so you have to be very flexible and have a lot of humour, and you can do a whole trip planned for months and then hundreds of thousands of dollars and not get what you intended to get, but you'll always get something, strengthening the relationships or paintings on the way or something. But I just thought, just to show you why it took 7 years. Okay, next, please. Just to show you the country in the desert, so beautiful. The spirit, you can feel it. Before I go on, it wasn't only what the real problem with the preservation is all these old people knew they would pass away, and the knowledge they had would go with them, because the young people were not, in the past, young people would go on country with them and they'd learn then, but the young people were too involved in their media, in their, their phones and screens and so on. So they, instead of being despondent, they were very proactive, the elders, and said, well, if they live in the digital realm, that's where we've got to meet them. So they went in. So that's why a lot of digital stuff is in this exhibition, and all the stuff we collected is deposited in what's called Aboriginal managed archive, a digital archive. So when the young fellas grow up, get married, have kids, they want to know these stories, because Aboriginal people, like your Indigenous people, you don't know who you are or where you belong or who your identity is if you don't know where the stories that belong to where you are from. So in this new model, so it's not only about pastoralism and mining, but it's really about preserving it for the young people when they're ready. Now, this one, in this process of co-design, if you like, you've got to go to their office as well as them coming to your office, right? So there we are in their office. Next. And here they are in our office at the National Museum. Oh, no, this was halfway. This is Uluru. And this is showing you that, the huge Google Maps, and everyone's negotiating about who has the right to speak for which part and where we're going to go. And we use Google Earth. So this is just part of that whole negotiation. Next. Next, yep. And this is at our place. This is the National Museum storage rooms. And what's really interesting about this is once all the paintings we already had there, they had to be danced and moved back into life. They had to be reanimated. You had to breathe life back into them because they've been lying dormant in these foreign, unrelated spaces out in some industrial area. So they're dancing the paintings back into life. Because they're living documents, they're living. This is what's showing you here. Next, yep. What I'm showing you here, remember the original one, how I said we travelled from the top on the left, that orange one, to the yellow desert, to that red desert? Well, to do the curatorial for the curators in the audience, we have clearly... so I just realised my computer isn't plugged in. We're clearly following, we're not making up a story, we haven't got a curatorial thesis or anything, we're just simply replicating the curatorial journey that was taken. So you can see there, I've got the orange
It's like
first.
action research, you just...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what you call it? Oh.
Somewhat.
That'll do, thank you. So, so we just simply replicate the deserts and then what happened on the way. Next.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, see the grey bit? That was where we had that, what you've got, the pop-up tents, that little grey bit, that's the entry into the exhibition.
Yes, now that pop-up tent makes sense when we see that slide.
And then at the end, you see there's Now, this one here is showing you as we're traveling, like those big maps, as we're traveling across country, all of the paintings became portals to place. So these paintings are the actual natural feature or the actual place where particular encounters occurred and where the lessons are learned through the story in the painting, which is the place. So they're not paintings for their
Amazing.
own sake, though you can enjoy them as just paintings. So on the plinths, the top of the plinths, I actually had faint lines of the songline you're traveling. And when you got to a certain painting, you could see it was called Jutanjanara or something. You see how they become the places. Next. I'm just worried about the time. 46. So again, I'll move through fast. This is when on country making the Seven Sisters out of native grasses and introduced material that will appear in the exhibition. Next. And these are, again, out on country, the ground proofing, right? So these are the women who rehearse, we go to many places and they keep rehearsing the Seven Sisters story. And when they started like 10, 11 years ago, they only knew, say, 5 of the 40 ancient chants, they call it. And by the time they finished, because all their memories got jogged and they, it all came, most of the ancient, almost lost songs came back to them. So, so preservation is an embodied thing as well. And this gets passed on through this exhibition and the archive. So this is out in the riverbeds. This is when the actual performance at the museum some years later. Next. And this is at the exhibition. And don't forget that one of the primary motives in this exhibition is the cross-generational transfer of knowledge. So this indicates that here. Next. This old man is teaching, go back one, the old man before is teaching his grandson through the paintings in the exhibition, passing on the knowledge that he couldn't pass on country because the young fellas weren't going on country. Here, he's passing on knowledge to the person from the different desert and said, this is what happened to the Seven Sisters when they got to our place. What happened to them at your place? It was like a soap opera. And then here you can see in the exhibition, see the virtual elder that you've got outside your tent. They are throughout the exhibition. You see, at each of the 3 deserts, we've got different people basically saying, come on in, you're welcome, come and learn these stories.
Yes, we love that. We feel so welcome when these elders beckon us like that. That's so welcome.
It reinforces the protocol of their position and their custodianship and their ownership and so on. There's no way you could do this, with just signs, words. It wouldn't do it. This works. Next. Yes, this fella Curtis Taylor says who's involved, he's basically saying, like he says, we just got to move with the times, and somewhere else, next one, I think you'll see. He's part of it. That's a film you can't see because it's not moving. But these young fellas, the other way is you had to make culture cool. So the young people thought it was, they want to be part of it. They want to learn. So people like Curtis and others led the way for people who were filmmakers. Now, if any of these young fellas want to make films, they have to go back to country. They have to learn about protocols and respect and who owns what and what they can and can't do and say and learn. So this is another way of connecting them through their own professions. Next. What kind of medium do they use? Acrylic. Cave Hill film now. We had this big dome, and you'll see it in the minute. And it's a pity I had a time lapse so that you could see this dome get erected, but you won't see it, unfortunately. Now, in the real, one of the important sites of the Seven Sisters in this man's country is in a cave called Willinga or Cave Hill. And we're teaching everyone that before you can go into that dome, you must get the welcome or the permission from the owner of that story. So here he is outside the cave. with his son, telling him, that, they have permission to enter and this isn't important. Next. And this is, you can't see it because there's no animation, but you normally see this being constructed, but you won't. So let's move on. Next, please. And see, unfortunately, all of this is motion, but this is in this canopy. You lie on your back, you look up, and don't get, this is concave, not convex, and you'll see the whole earth coming towards you. It'll focus on the cave. Next, you come in on the cave. I'll have to move. And in there, this Josephine with her daughter looking at the Seven Sisters rock art. This is the only rock art site in the world of the Seven Sisters story. Next, there's a series of in the domes, but they're normally animated. This is those woven figures that were woven on country. Don't forget, when the women are doing these workshops, they are exchanging stories, rehearsing, practicing, learning, telling their youngers. So these were all animated to enact the whole story in this dome. You see the people underneath? That's your lie down. So these are some of the paintings were animated so that all the stake moves, the Aboriginal person is telling the story. So 5 paintings in this dome are animated. So you hear the story over and over in different ways, different parts. Yeah, you may as well keep going because they're not. Now, in the UK, they took not only they took it very seriously. They built a building out the front for the dome. So the dome is in that, but of course there was also a practical consideration that ran out of space. But we got a whole beautiful building with a ramp. It was stunning. Next, this is in the UK. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was the first thing you saw. So you went in, you were under the cave, you got immersed and sucked in, and it's beautiful music, and people are just entranced. And then they went into the exhibition. So every place does it differently.
What time of the year is this?
Next, please. Sorry, I know I'm gabbling, but I'm trying to get through it. 4,
Yes,
5,
yes.
6.
Appreciate this.
So we're nearly half an hour. Next, please. Okay, that's the dome. This is in, where are we? In Berlin. And I always throw golden light on it. And all through the show, there's all these golden plinths and things to not only bling, but just to give that ethereal feeling.
Yes, we noticed that gold. You love that.
And that's 7 meters dome. I mean, it's not small. Next, and there's it from looking inside, looking out, and you can see some of the rock art. It's not flat like that, of course. It's just next. And there's our former Prime Minister and his wife. We found them in there doing the virtual experience. Next, this is just a bit of fun on the side, and he loves selfies. This is Malcolm Turnbull, the one before, 3 back now. Next, the animated ones, we may as well move. This is the same, your tent, going back. This is just showing you somebody was so excited they were doing handstands, and kids run around chasing snake, and people stay in there for ages and get right in it. You're not supposed to view it, you're supposed to be right in it. Next. Well, if you look carefully on the bottom of the plinth, on the top of the plinth, you see there are words, and there's a sort of very faint line. So remember, those words are the actual places where those paintings are the portals to. So that doesn't interfere with your visual experience of the work on the wall, but when you look down, you can learn also. So it's multiple points of entry into the show. Lots of information.
I'm sure you had to prepare a glossary at some point.
Yes, of course, yes. So you can see there how these are all telling that the line, you're actually physically following the songline. And look at that. So that's
beautiful.
One of the big. So it's being loaded up from there's 8 women. This is This is an encyclopedia of knowledge, right? It's amazing. It's an epic saga. It's story of a particular part of the country, up Mardu land. 8 old ladies taught all the young rangers. And you can see on this picture how it's got all the bits are named. Yes.
It's in
So,
the book. It's
yeah,
in the
it's
book
in the
where
book.
I must tell everyone there's a tracing paper
Yeah.
where on top of it so you can actually read and understand how it's been picked up from the painting, this particular areas, locations that we've not noticed otherwise.
So,
Thank
so
you for that
Yeah,
book.
well, not only is it a beautiful painting, but it's actually an encyclopedia. It's an archive of knowledge of that particular country that the old women were teaching the young people in order to care for country. So it's a seasonal calendar, it's a food calendar, it's the clock, it's the, everything. And you need to look at the book to realize, well, one thing's happening in one corner, the Seven Sisters at the top. That means when they're up, I'll just tell you one at the top, there's 7 sisters, and when they appear in that northwestern part of the sky, don't light any more fires, the country's too dry. And that's when you go here, and all of that's a complete guide to life. And there's only a little bit, I couldn't fit it all in. I only could put some on there. Next.
Yeah.
Now, this is how we installed it, right? No, I'm not just a museum person. So here's the painting in the front. Those people are looking at that's a time-lapse photograph of the painting being done over 10 days. And you can see it takes you 40 minutes to see from beginning to end. As the women move, they sit on the canvas, they shuffle across the canvas. It becomes country. They sleep on it, eat on it, dogs run on it, kids run on it. It is country, right? It becomes skin of country. And these things on the side are usually animated again, but they are all of the animated visuals of the country context shops. Context. Lynette Walworth, who you may have heard of, who's quite famous internationally.
Lynette.
She's responsible
Yes.
for this. Yeah.
Beautiful. I'm
Next.
sorry, we must rush you a bit, Professor.
Yes, I know. Keep moving. Next.
Okay.
Next. They're obviously, when they're self-explanatory, this is acknowledging the male's role. This is a man's room to show you. So just next. More of them.
Oh,
Snakes,
wow.
spears. They all
Wow.
represent acknowledge the male role and a projection on the floor. Next.
So,
This is like I made a blue room. It's a very gendered traditional society. It's a gendered landscape. This is a women, 7 pots for 7 women. Each pot shows you how this man shape-shifted into various foods to lure and trick the women. And this is how they taught the young people this way. Next for this show. These are just showing off about how fantastic it's been.
wow.
21st century. Next, so it's the next few. The Guardian.
That's the book.
Yeah, no, the newspapers.
That's a
London
newspaper.
Times. Yeah. Moving on, moving on. This is an arts. Keep going. Now, this is an art centre, which is
This is
part
like an
of
open studio, the open
yes,
studio.
yes, to show you. And this is what we had at the exhibition. The art was sold there. Master classes were there. We recreated the art centres where all the works are produced in the desert. Next. You can see what they are. These are the sisters in various forms as trees trying to escape the man. There's the bling, you see?
Yes.
Beautiful. Next. And that's the healer and this is, we can just show these and they'll come up in the conversation. These are the 7 sisters. They were flying up to become the stars. So they
Yes.
arranged the flight path. Next. Oh, we're finished. That's my God. Oh, look at this. Go to the next one. That's when I started. And
So you're the Babani, are you?
Yambabali. And the
Okay.
next one is his age now. That's how long it's taken. And then the next
What?
will just show you, the next is too beautiful. And the next one show you all the faces of all the people so I can at least show you that Yeah, so you just flick through them so you at least see
Hello.
their
Yes, some of
faces.
them said
Yeah.
hello at the beginning of our exhibition. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yes, of course. But if you
Yes.
keep, that's all basically, these are just more of, just show them, just run through them fast so you can see the people, right? More, next,
Yeah. Truly,
next.
truly insightful sharing
Yeah.
of your
Okay.
curation of the songlines.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure the
So
audience out
thank,
there, they have more questions, and we're going to make
I,
this organic, and we will
I
see
can't
that
believe I did
questions.
30 minutes. Whoa, I have to talk very fast.
No, it's so good. We hardly felt, we wanted to see more. Some of us want to
Yeah.
fly immediately to Berlin. Somebody said
Well,
that just now.
well, you can go to Paris next year.
Ah, that's
Paris
that's
next
what
year.
to look out
Yeah.
for.
And then we're going to be
I think
aiming for New York yeah. Anyway, thank you very much. That's all I have for you today.
thank you, and Shaq also enjoyed that totally. I'm so happy to see that some of the audience have questions, and we will be collecting these questions after the second speaker has spoken at the end
Yes,
of the
of
program.
course.
And if you can allow me to quote um, Ngalanka Nola Taylor. Yeah, Ngalanka Nola Taylor wrote something so beautiful about the Seven Sisters. It's not just one songline. They traveled all around Australia, and even other people overseas knew and know that the Seven Sisters story exists in their own way. So it's a special story. It's not only happening here in Australia, but it happened everywhere else. And that put me to think about how this quote is what I read from your book, Prof. The catalog of the exhibition, the Songlines Exhibition. The Songlines Exhibition quote written by Ngalanka Nola Taylor, a senior artist, translator, and advisor for Martu people. She also works for Kanyin Winpa Jurpa. Yeah. And this quote beckons us in Malaysia, it calls to us to collaborate with our Australian counterpart and share stories too. So do allow us to listen today to the stories of our Orang Asal. We have our good Shaq Koyok here. And today
Hi.
I
Hi.
will not try to be the expert in Orang Asal. I will leave it to Shaq Koyok. We only want you to know that the indigenous people of Malaysia are estimated to account for around 14% of our 32 million
Wow.
people. Yeah,
Mm,
14, 1 4. And they are
yes.
collectively known as Orang Asal. And we invite Shaq Koyok, a representative of the Orang Asal, to respond to the exhibition. And he has experienced that exhibition, the one at the National Art Gallery, and to recall his encounters with the Indigenous Australia, as Shaq was privileged to be given the Merdeka Award grant, where he had actually traveled to meet up with the Australian Indigenous people. And Shaq will also share his experience in making the spirit of the indigenous visible, how he makes the spirit visible. Without further ado, allow me to introduce Shaq in this short bio. The Shaq we know is a very active contemporary artist, also an activist from the Temuan Orang Asli tribe in Banting, that's the southwest Selangor state. It's known for merging art and activism into a glorious uh, presentation. You would never imagine what his next presentation could be. His fondest memories are fishing in the nearby peat swamp and hunting small animals in the jungle. In primary school, he discovered art, a passion which shaped the course of his life. In this early year, the land developer had encroached around the jungle around his village, and now reflecting it in many of his works, that trauma and that loss that he has encountered has become the passion for his works, and this led to his fight for his people, the people who are continuously fighting for the land rights. These negotiations that has to be done with the government. For many years now, his common face at protests, standing shoulder to shoulder with activists to demand the rights of the Orang Asal. Additionally, through art, he frequently expresses the plight of the indigenous communities scattered around Malaysia with his bold brush strokes and installation art. His work depicts gorgeous portraits of everyday Orang Asli people with powerful stories that cling tightly to the canvas he paints on. He has graduated with a BA in Fine Art from the University Technology Mara, Malaysia in 2009. He has received Indigenous People's Excellence Award and Indigenous People Icon Award by Tourism Selangor in 2015. Merdeka Award grant was given for the international attachment where he was placed in Australia for a few months, or was it a year, in
Yeah.
2017. And recently, he had been given the Eco Business A-List Award in 2021. He's actively exhibited in national and international forums, and here he is with us today. We invite Shaq Koyok to share. Please, Shaq.
Thank you so much. Before I start my presentation, acknowledge. I would like to welcome to one land and acknowledge the Orang Asli and Orang Asal and Orang Laut, who are the traditional custodian land. We gather we gather across today. I call for recognition of our connection to the land, sea, community. I pay respect to my Moyang, past and present, and recognize all indigenous people in the world who have joined us here today. All right. So here's some of a brief history of Malaysian indigenous people, and as Zanita just mentioned, we made up about 13%. I think now it's 14% of Malaysian population. So we collectively known as Orang Asal and Orang Asli, and Orang Asal the big collective name for the indigenous people in Malaysia. As you can see in this picture here on the right hand side, you can see the mask dancer, and also this the indigenous people on the left picture here. You can see different different faces from different indigenous tribe in Malaysia. So each of the indigenous tribe, they have their own language. So the use of plant is very core in our tradition of indigenous people in Malaysia. And we use for medicinal and building material. There is ceremony, funeral, and ancestral events. For building and decoration, you can see all our building material are come from the jungle, and the jungle is very it's a part of our culture. So the shamanic activity related to Rasi long tradition in animism. So even my father's now, he is a shaman in my village, and he's is actually uh, uh, taught me a lot of things about medicinal plant, and I helped him when he conducted the session, a healing session with a patient, and I often have to go to the jungle to find this plant for the patient. So, and it's this picture on the left is a typical picture of indigenous people who have built small little altar in every next to the house or behind the house or in front of the house. So the altar is a place for us to say thank you to our ancestor spirit by giving them food, or and also during the ancestral day we will celebrate, and through this spirit house or altar we will connect our spirit of ancestor and also spirit of nature. So you can see they're all decorated with the plant that we gather around us. The tradition knowledge, so it's handed down uh, through the generation, oral story and expertise in the community. So during the weaving session, like the picture on the left here, this is a weaving groups in my village. So when they're doing the weaving group, they will share the story together, and then they will tell the story why this weaving pattern made of, and why they named this weaving pattern, and then they will try to exchange the knowledge that been told by their parents. So oral story and expertise share within community, and often that make it even harder for me as a visual artist to visualize the oral stories. So, and shaman and midwife in particular hold much knowledge about benefit of plant. I was lucky because I would grow up with my father is shaman and my mother is midwife. So I got to know all the knowledge that will be passed down while they're doing their activity. Like my mother, when they're helping to deliver the baby in the house, that time she will tell us what we need to do, or why the reason why you need to do this, and then also why this plant is suitable for the when delivering baby, and then why we need to get this plant, and then the reason why. So I guess I'm so privileged, even though when I grew up we don't have proper electricity and water and all the facility, but with this culture still practicing during my time. So I'm kind of privileged, even though I miss all all the facility in the village, but I do have a time to learn about my culture. And you can see some of the even the dress from the indigenous people are made from the tree itself. So all the wedding dress here on the right side, the picture on the right side, are made from the tree bark. So every village that have sangha or altar been built by the owner of the house, and uh, before we build the house itself, we have to build the altar first. So even though you don't have place to sleep yet, the first thing you do is building the altar, because the place or the land, the area belong to the spirit of the nature that belong to there. So before you building or disturb the area, we ask permission to the area, to the land, to the spirit of the land, spirit of the trees, spirit of forest, that we actually want to build. So do we build this altar first, and then we can start building the building. On the right side is a traditional dance of Mamari people. The Mamari people are very known with their face, with the mask dance, and they often do this um, uh, what's it called, dance, spiritual dance that celebrate their ancestor. And also Mamari are known to be live nearby the sea, so most of their dance are related to the spirit of the sea, the spirit of the fish, spirit of the mangrove, spirit of seafood, all the sea life that they encounter every day. So they will depict it in the dance. It's very, you can see more here. And one of the uh, I think there's so many of the spirit in this sculpture, and then they always try to please the spirit one, because they need to have a good protection on when they go to the sea, to the because they're fishermen, so they will go to the sea to collect all the um, product from the sea. So in order to do that, they need to respect the spirit of the sea, spirit of the beach, spirit of the or animal there. So they turn into the sculpture. So firstly, this before this sculpture, the totem, they will have this dream. So the story comes from the dream first, and then they will depict it on the sculpture. But intentionally, these sculpture are made for the medicinal purpose. So they use this sculpture as to heal the patient who are who got ill, while they're going hunting or they're going to fishing. So in order for them to get healed, they need the shaman to address the problem, and they will tell you that uh, the sculpture actually represent the spirit that affected the patient. So they use the spirit to as a mediator to transfer all the disease that been affected this patient to this um, sculpture. So before I think before the gallery or museum collected, this sculpture usually been thrown on a river, in the heart of the river, in an estuary between sea and the river meet. So this is because when the healing practice finish, when the so-called spirit of the disease transfer to the sculpture, they need to wrap it with a yellow rope or line or cloth, and then they will throw on the river. And I think in those days, we often seen this sculpture floating or sink under in the bottom of the river or the sea, because um, because this is part of their culture of healing culture. As you can see here on the right side is a picture of the sea ritual or worship to the sea spirit ritual. So they do this traditional dance on the beach to peace, to say thank you to the ancestor spirit, also the spirit of the sea. Right, and then go to my work, because all the experience, I think it's really give me a lot of inspirations, and I was a bit cautious, but about depicting so many of the people that I encountered, and at the same time I want to tell this story through my contemporary work, because in my work I always talk about the social issues, okay, about the environmental issue, and how am I gonna use all the knowledge that I get and put it into put it into my installation work or my artwork, and the work itself is placed in a contemporary setting. It's kind of challenging because I'm dealing with many uh, people that helping me in making this artwork, especially master weaver from different places, different villages throughout Malaysia, and I managed to get in touch with them and make sure they do this weaving for me. So even though the geographical challenging for me to get this weaving, but I managed to get them to do their style of weaving. But at the same time, I want to tell the story about them in
Shaq,
the
we must ask for you to share a bit faster now.
sorry, faster.
Can you hear me? Yeah, yeah. Sorry, we are getting to yeah,
Okay,
we're
okay.
getting to the question and answers, but I'm
All
sure you
right.
can finish it in a few slides. I'm sure you can.
All
A
right,
few slides.
I'll go straight away. Okay, okay. This is exhibited in National Gallery in 2019 actually.
Yes, thank you. We saw and enjoyed that at the National Art Gallery very much. The smell and just to be immersed in the
Yes,
smell of it. We can smell the jungle. Yes.
yeah, yeah. Here I'd like to show you the plant that all the weaving came from. So the weaving of the pandanus come from this pandanus plant. Most of the weaving are made from by my mother. So my mother is master weaver as well. So and she actually helping others, uh, helping me to weave this tikam mukwang or pandanus mat. and also she actually teach other young generation of the master weaver in village to learn how to weave. So now it's very good way to relieve the. I think this is quite crucial for indigenous people that have to make the culture cool, like Prof said, and I think that's a duty for us, for me as a young generation of indigenous people, to make that happen, because at the moment we have the similar problem that so many young generation not interested in culture, and especially in indigenous culture, because they think it's not that cool. They think it's so old, so like a backward. But this is their identity. If they lost identity, they are nothing.
Yeah, it's a continuous challenge. Yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely.
yeah,
Probably I need
yeah.
to stop soon. All
Are
right, this
there
is,
other contemporary artists like you producing
yes,
this?
yes,
Your
yes, of
brother is
course.
also active. Yeah,
Yes, yes,
Ruslan. Yeah.
yeah. My brother also pen as well, and I like to share you another indigenous artist that come from the Borneo. Is
Sarawak.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sarawak. So this is the Bidayu people of Sarawak. So Bidayu, they have like 25 dialects in Sarawak. So even though Bidayu as a one tribe, but they actually have the 25 other sub tribes in Bidayu. And yeah, so they located in the eastern, central, highland, and western of Sarawak. So
Yes, I hope
Sarawak is a
Professor Margo sees the colors here. How the
yeah.
colors are so, yeah.
So Sarawak is bigger than Peninsula. So so I'm so lucky that I have a friend that come from the Bidaya people. I will show you later. And this is the artist. His name is Candy Method. He has a similar uh, uh, style, not similar style, a similar mission that the one I'm doing. That he want to preserve his culture through his art, through his contemporary installation, contemporary art, and also he is a educator and researcher, and also cultural activist like me. And he always talk about how important is culture to his people in Sarawak, and also he always talk about how important the indigenous people of Bidayo, and they try to preserve it through his what's it called, uh, lecturing, because he did he's a lecturer in a local university here, and I always lecture about his paper, and also about his art, and also about the culture of Bogotari people. So I'm so lucky, I'm so inspired with this uh, journey, and I'm so lucky I'm become his friend, and we both are very we always compliment each other. We always try to help each other in making our indigenous culture alive, and also being accepted with the young generation. So it's quite hard work for us, and we will never stop to do that. I think.
I'm
Thank you.
sure.
That's it. Terima kasih. Thank you so
Terima
much.
kasih. Terima kasih, Shaq. At this juncture, we have managed to appreciate both Orang Asal and the Aboriginal Australian art through the work of Professor Margo Neale's beautifully curated exhibition, Songlines, and through Shaq Koyok's sharing of his artworks and several of the friends' artwork that we saw there. And the speakers shared some background information on the social history, on the artistic expression, and similar colors and pigments. We must see how these pigments come from the land and how these are common practices that are actually shared for both indigenous groups to have these pigments from the land, and how this will change as cultural traditions will go through innovation. Now, for time to pass and for the next generation to pick up on the elders' teachings, there surely must be innovation. And there are, of course, schools of thoughts about innovation and how we must preserve the past but not have too much innovation. This is going to be the challenge, and they will be coming up, I'm sure, in the questions. How do we preserve? And we heard that there is one particular question about how do you see the future of the indigenous peoples in today's contemporary world? For should this be something that we see in the coming future, something that can be taken in stride with all the efforts and all the work and all the research and the repository of knowledge that's going to be our tool for the next. And I will please invite for Prof. Margo to share on how you can enlighten us on this question.
This is so the one about the future of Indigenous people in the contemporary world. So
Yes, the
that
future
question.
Indigenous people for Australia,
Yeah.
also the Indigenous people for Malaysia.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
how do you see
you
that?
know, well, there's two things. When you consider that Aboriginal people in Australia have a continuing culture for 65,000 years, they therefore, to do that, you have to be very adaptive and dynamic and capacity to change, right? So we've had, ice ages. Our people survived through ice ages, sea level rises. All the things that happen in
Climate,
65,000.
yes,
So
crisis.
well, they're just normal environmental, global, glacial kind of events. But what it indicates is a degree of a capacity to change. Now, the colonization was a serious impact, and we're lucky we survived it. And I think it means our capacity to change the way we tell our stories to survive, so our stories survive in the contemporary world, is is indicative of this dynamism that I was talking about. We do not see using neon or any materials are not what it's about. It's what do I say? The medium, the meaning is not in the media, but but in the message, right? So
Yes,
we can use anything. We can use plastic. We can use anything at all, any material, any style, doesn't matter. It's the content that matters. So there's some people in this world, as Shaq would know, who think that as soon as Aboriginal people stop painting with natural earth ochres on bark, as soon as they did that, their culture was corrupted, right? But it's
ah,
not. It's not. You see, it's nothing to do with the materials, except if the materials are important to the content. Just as Shark said, that plant matter was important to his content. He couldn't use acrylic paint to replicate that. And the style is, like people in the desert didn't even have portable art until the 80s. It was done as on the ground and sand and on the body. But the culture gets stronger and stronger the more and more culture art is done. It doesn't matter. People have to get over the view that because it's using modern materials, it's corrupting. No, the reverse.
as the stories must be told and continue. Yeah,
Well,
it
the
is the
knowledge is embedded in
it's
in what
embedded.
what the artist is doing. He's embedded. Doesn't matter whether he's using eggshells or neon or digital. It doesn't matter. You can't be. It's not about the medium or the style. That's my
Yes.
brief answer.
No, I think
Thank
it's
you.
very good.
Shaq?
I agree with that. I totally agree. It doesn't matter what medium you use, as long as the message is there, and how you connect to the new generation, your work. I think that's the
Yes,
most important thing, because
actually,
the
meaning
preservation of
actually.
our culture is a continuous line. It cannot be
Yeah.
break.
Oh, we've got a bit of this.
Of course.
Bit of this. I think it'd be unrealistic to think we haven't had a
Yeah,
few
of
challenges.
course. Like pause for our,
Yeah,
Oh,
like
that's like a heartbeat.
a
yes.
heartbeat, exactly. But the point is, it's still
Exactly.
beating. It's still beating. That's the main
Y-
thing.
That's
Doesn't
the
matter.
main thing. True. We have a
And
second question here. We
before
have
we
a
do that,
second
can I just?
question.
Oh, do you mind me interrupting? Before I say, that, I actually believe the more the contemporary material is, the more contemporary the style is, the stronger the message is, because it, as Shaq said, it relates to the next generation. And that's all we're talking
Ah,
about, right? That's all.
Yes,
speaking to the next
Yes, because
generations.
speak same language.
Language.
absolutely.
Yes. Sorry.
That's for that. Yes, I think it's along the lines of our next question. For here, Shaq, you have to answer this: whether digital techniques like those used in Songlines can also be used to tell the stories of the Orang Asal, the traditional stories in Malaysia.
Yes, very good question, Jason. I think, yeah, at the moment, I'm trying my best to using the YouTube and the video content creator kind of angle to document my work. At the same time, I can interact with the people outside of Malaysia. And yeah, I have my YouTube channel now. So most of my YouTube channels will showcase about the process of my work. So I document while I'm doing my work in time lapse video. And mm, at the moment, I'm also doing a mural as well in the building. So the mural art become getting trendy now in Malaysia. I try to use that as a use the trendy culture to venture. So I venture in mural art at the moment. So at the same time, I recorded and posted in my social media in my YouTube channel because even the many of it or us indigenous people in Malaysia are live very rural, very away from the connection of the internet, but they do manage to have fun and manage to see YouTube. Most of them not even finish their school, so most of them they doesn't know how to read or write. And
Lucky.
yeah, for
Yes.
some reason, they know
Lucky.
exactly how to use the
Professor Margo says lucky
phone.
for those who
They
do
know how
not
to use
know
the phone. They know
how
how
to,
to
so they will not be contaminated.
find the video through the microphone. Just speak. Just say, "I want to look this. I want to watch this." So I this is happened during the pandemic. I start my
Ah,
YouTube channel. I'm thinking, what a better way, because most of it, these indigenous people never go. Most of them doesn't have chance to go to the city center to look for the exhibition. The only picture they can see is through their phone or through the social media. So I think for me to transfer the knowledge, to preserve the knowledge is through the social media. I have no choice at the moment. But soon if they have a proper facility like a proper road to go to the city, I'm sure they have a great opportunity to experience my artwork and Murilla, because I get so many comment in social media say
yes,
I would love to see your work in real life. I'd love to see your work, but we're talking about geographical area,
yeah.
geographical of the way this is situated. I think
Mm.
at the moment I try my best to put it in my social media, and I hope they at least they have a taste of it.
Mm.
Yes, yes, that would be another topic we should pursue. Yeah, Indigenous art and the social media, and how that has become
Oh,
another landscape territory in itself for us to explore. I thank you for these questions being answered. And well, we're close to time now. I must say, in conclusion, we hope this talk had stirred within you some new awakenings. We hope that you have now ideas of cultural knowledge that has been long known in ancient times but never really been seen in the exhibitions that you have visited before. This time, if you have not visited, please do visit the National Art Gallery on the third floor, for we have Walking Through a Songline exhibition still on display at the National Art Gallery until the 11th September 2022. And it is free. I must ask Professor Margo, how much do you charge in Australia to look at your exhibition?
When it was in Australia, it was, but it was the whole exhibition. It wasn't much. Just a few peanuts, really.
Oh yes, I'm lucky enough to be in to be in Canberra to see
Did you
the
see it?
National Museum twice,
Did you
but
see it?
I never seen this Songline
Oh,
exhibition because I was there when the Songline was
gone.
yes, gone.
Yeah.
So twice I missed it.
Oh, bugger.
It
Well,
is
look.
so important to actually see the songlines, not only
This,
for the beauty,
yeah.
for how you presented it, but also the lessons that the
Well,
Jukurpa governance.
yeah.
That's
Perhaps
amazing.
perhaps the people. I'm sorry, I keep interrupting, but the people might go onto the National Museum of Australia website. I'm sure there's lots of videos and walkthroughs of the shows and all of the stuff people have. The museum, I'm sure they have some interesting. For those who are interested to follow up, some of the walkthroughs, I know I've done the walkthrough the whole show and talked about everything, so there must be
Yes,
things there. And the books, the Thames and Hudson books, they're called First Knowledges, and there will be 10 in the series, but the first one is Songlines. That's the
yes, this
catalogue
one.
there, but there's also a
Yes.
little small book, Thames and Hudson books as well. But that is very, for a Malaysian audience, that would be very appropriate.
Thank
Yep,
you.
that's
We must
okay.
mention that this can be purchased online. Yes, from the National Museum of Australia shop, I would
Ah,
presume.
I
And
hope
you
you get a
also
cut.
have
I hope you get
it's
a
beautiful.
cut.
That's a good idea. It is so beautiful. Of course, with a
Yeah,
gold
yeah.
embellishment here.
Wow,
This is
fancy!
too
Wow,
prestigious. It's too
I want to
elegant.
have fun.
Yes,
No,
definitely.
yes, we hope the Australian High Kong will be giving us access to this book. Yes, Shaq. Um, we must also mention Margo Neale. Professor Margo Neale has also written a very important book, Songlines, The Power and the Promise. And this is how you mentioned to intellectualize reconciliation. It's a
Well,
very, very, very
that's
long journey.
yeah, for those people who are really interested in Australian Aboriginal first knowledges. There are a series of books, 2 a year, come out under Thames and Hudson, Australia. Songlines you mentioned then is the first, but there are designs, country, medicine, politics, law, everything. So if you want to, if you depend on your level of interest of knowledge, but it's very readable, very accessible. I'm so amazed how you mob can speak English so well when I don't know one word of the Malaysian. I'm so
It's a second language.
impressed,
It's a second language.
but it's
Yes, yes.
amazing,
Yeah,
amazing.
thanks to our
But this is actually
colleague
my third language.
in
I
the
speak
past.
this
Wow.
different others language.
I only have bad language in English.
I'm sure you can read also Shaq Koyok's book, even if you do not know the language
Yeah.
of the Bahasa Malaysia. We have Shaq Koyok also
Oh,
have
okay. Yes.
he has
Thank you,
produced some
Jason. Thank you,
illustrations.
High Commission. We'd be very happy to receive it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and look forward to the storybook, the children's storybook of Shaq Koyok's, yeah, Tujal and
Yeah.
the Wind. Shaq, you must post one to Professor Margot.
Yeah, I
Yes.
And to
will. I
the
will.
audience who put in a good question for you too just now, thank you everyone for being with us. Thank you for your time, and we hope you
Thank you.
do not ever tire. Do not be tired in asking why are we responsible to learn more about Indigenous? Why are we even wanting to think about Indigenous knowledge? Please do not stop thinking about Indigenous knowledge, for it is the key to overcoming so many
Much.
global
Yes.
issues. You do not realize how much the repository of the past has not
Nation.
been unlocked and shared as it should be for us to
Yep.
go, you know, future proofing our next generation. We are
Yes.
all responsible to learn more. And please remember and ask yourself, do you associate the values of the indigenous knowledge for the future of the planet? And if you do, please come and look out for us. Look out for more of this explorations, exhibitions by curators as Prof. Margo Neale, by artist Shaq Koyok. And please do visit the National Art Gallery, Museum Australia, and the National Art Gallery Kuala Lumpur. And thank you for today. Thank you for being with us. Thank you, Professor Margot. Thank you, Shaq. I wish we all would wear your hat there.
Yes, I want your hat.
The
In
hat
our
from the nature.
Ah, and Zanita, we can't stop. We can't go without saying thank you to you, Zanita. You're just a fabulous mediator, facilitator.
We
I
truly love
personally
this.
appreciated it very much, and I really appreciate Shark's lovely presentation and his sense of humor and his happy face, and all is well in the world of the Indigenous.
Yeah.
We are hopeful. We are
Yeah.
hopeful a lot. Thank you
We're
so much.
yeah.
And
Thank you so
stay
much.
safe, everyone. And hope to
Yes,
see you all again.
soon.
Thank
Thank
you
you, the
again.
thank you, all
Thank
those
you.
listeners. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yes. Bye.
Hey!